Egyptian taxi driver attempted to kidnap me on a family vacation. Like several other posts on the sub, this happened to me when I was a kid, 10 to be exact. I grew up in a military family and lived in the Middle East for a significant portion of my life. Because of this, we frequently traveled to different countries because of the low cost and proximity. On this particular vacation, we flew into Cairo, Egypt, the kidnapping capital of the world at that point in time, for a long weekend. We only lived like 2 to 3 hours away. It was late at night, and we were staying at the Marriott Hotel, which had a taxi and shuttle service that was supposed to pick us up. For some reason, our driver never showed up, so we were forced to find a regular taxi to take us there, which took forever to find that late at night. We finally found one that was offering us a pretty good deal, and headed towards the hotel. Out of nowhere, another taxi basically T-bones us in the middle of the road, causing us to stop. There aren't definitely really defined roads in a lot of Arab places, so it isn't really that surprising that we got hit. In Arab nature, the two drivers get out of their cars, each yelling at it was the other person's fault, and looking like they're gonna throw hands. Eventually, they got back into their respective taxis and parted ways. My family and I were completely taken aback. We had been in Egypt less than 2 hours, and have really had quite the adventure. We finally got to the hotel, exhausted as it must have been around 3 a.m. by this point. Our driver helped us get all of our bags out and get settled, and told us that he felt so bad about the car accident that he offered to pick us up the next morning and take us to the Great Pyramids for a super cheap rate. My parents agreed and decided on a time for him to come, though I can't remember when. Flash forward to the next morning, everyone is ready for the day, excited to see how crazy it was going to be. Our driver was outside, waiting for us, leaning against the car like someone in an old movie, right when he said he'd be there. I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, and had a deep tan at the time, and being in Egypt, that was a rare sight. When the driver saw me in the daylight, he gave me the creepiest, most unsettling look that sent chills down my spine, even as a 10-year-old. I knew something wasn't right with him. Nonetheless, we got in his taxi and headed towards the pyramids. He continued to try and talk to me, and joked around with me the whole ride, something I found to be extremely creepy and bold, since both of my parents were in the car at the time. We get super close, and there is an entrance that people can go through and walk the long distance to the pyramids, and there is an entrance that taxis can go through. You have to pay to see them. Strange, but true. Our driver keeps making jokes about my blonde hair and blue eyes, and bringing up that he could get me into the pyramids for free, so my parents wouldn't have to pay the extra ticket price. We laughed it off, and my parents paid him, said thank you, and began to exit the taxi. I don't remember how it happened, but at some point after I got out of the car, he did too, and directed me towards his trunk. I was confused, and thought we had forgotten something, so I stayed behind, as my parents walked towards the gate to get whatever I thought we had left. The driver pops the trunk, but there wasn't anything in there. He grabbed my hand and put a hand on my back, trying to push me into the trunk, and said, "I'm getting you in for free," over and over again. As I resisted, naturally I freaked out, and screamed up to my mom and dad at the top of my lungs, terrified. When they heard me and noticed I wasn't behind them, they started sprinting back to the car. When the driver heard me scream, he immediately let me go, closed the trunk, and drove away, just as my parents started to run to me. I was crying my eyes out, terrified out of my mind, knowing that an Arab taxi driver tried to put me in his trunk, and drove away the second I screamed for help. It's scary to think what would have happened to me had he been stronger or more prepared or faster. He is the reason that I am so terrified of taxis, Ubers, Lyfts, and any car service of that nature. So, Egyptian taxi driver, let's never meet again. If you meet a homeless kid asking for drive away. Hey guys, I'm 18 years old and currently living in Egypt, and I moved here 2 years ago, so I don't really know how to deal with people in here. By people, I mean troublemakers. The place I live in is pretty decent, and I go to private school, so I never had to encounter any troublemakers. My dad travels a lot, and since I'm the oldest of my siblings, I do most of the shopping, so I always get the groceries and almost everything from big malls. One day my hour trip turned into a nightmare. I drive a good car, not sports or supercar, but a pretty good car for an average youngster in the Middle East. About 3 weeks ago, I had a list of groceries to grab, so I went to the mall, did the shopping, paid for it, and got out. I decided to try that new vegan burger that I see every day on Facebook ad, and got one burger, soda, fries, and walked to a parking lot. I see this kid who I thought was 15-ish. He looked pretty homeless to me. I decided to give him my fries. So I dropped the bags on the back seat and was even thinking of talking to him, maybe hear his story or something like that. I was really urged to help him. After all, it's harmless, and actually the opposite of harmless. I go over and shake his hand. I ask him, "What are you doing out here?" He said, "I was on my way to the village, but I lost my money." Now, a lot of people have warned me about this scam, but I felt like he really was in a bad situation, so I asked more. Where do you live? What do you do for a living? Are you in school? What are you doing in the city? He said he's working with someone, and he sells stuff on the street, and he sold the goods he got, but lost his money, he said. I felt really horrible for him, so I offered him a ride to the bus station, and enough money to get him there. It wasn't much, but it'd be enough for a ticket and some change. It was almost on my way anyway, just like 2 turns around the corner. I didn't feel anxious at all, to the point that I told him about my private life. Before I head out to the mall, security comes and asked if he's causing trouble, and I said no, he is alright. Disgusted for him to assume that this poor guy is a bad person, I thought. We head out, I share my burger with him, and I even gave him the soda. He starts guiding me through the road. It was all fine until he asked me to turn to a dirt road. Now, I don't really know where the bus station is, but I knew for sure that it wasn't there. I said I was just checking my phone. He said, "Alright, there's a short route, that's all." I started questioning his story in my head. I was relieved that he didn't insist. Oh well, it's not that far. Great. But still, I was certain that a public bus station would be public, and he wouldn't be able to do anything, right? What made me really suspicious was the phone call he made. He called someone and said, "Hey, meet me at the one below the bridge, I got the goods." Now, I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? I see no goods in the area. Before we arrive, I said, "Sorry, it's dark. So can you walk there? I'll drop you on the road right across it." He said, "Yes, it's alright." Called the guy again and told him I'll be out on the road. I'm in a white SUV. I was really anxious. We arrive and oh my fucking god, what happened next was the ultimate nightmare that I never thought. They're right on the road. I see them. Probably 7 guys who were obviously looking for me. Now, it was a highway, so I thought switching to the last lane would allow. Wait. There's also a group of people on the other side. I even noticed that one that had a stick. They spot me and start waving and shouting. He says, "Yes, stop here." I say, "Nope." Took the middle lane and gassed away there. They were shouting and running after me. I look at him and say, "If you don't want me to drop you here, I can only stop at the police station," which was on the other way. He says, "Drop me here." I say, "Okay, but you make it fast, okay?" He gets out, puts his hand on the door to keep it open. I change gears and I take a sharp turn to his side and adjusted the wheels and speed the fuck out of there. I don't know what would have happened if they caught me that day. If not mugging me, maybe getting me in some drug dealer shit. I think he had drugs. That's my opinion of it. What do you guys think? And Mahmoud and his mob, please, let's not ever meet again, okay? No, I don't want to live in Egypt with a stranger. I used to work in retail. I know many of you shuddered at that sentence right there. Anyways, the store where I worked sold children's clothing. It was an okay job, but still had some interesting folks come in every once in a while. I was in my late teens, early 20s while I worked there. It was a busy Saturday, and I was doing my best to keep the store tidy while helping customers. I was straightening a rack when this guy confronted me. He was tall, had dark complexion and hair, and was wearing glasses. He looked about 30, give or take. He wasn't with anybody else, and didn't appear to be shopping for a child. He struck up a conversation and was smiling and friendly the whole time. I don't recall what he talked about exactly, but he kept following me around and not getting the hint that I was busy and uninterested. Then he asked if I had a boyfriend. I told him yes, but I can't remember if that was true at the time. He continued to hang around and told me I was pretty. He was making me uncomfortable and wished he would leave me alone, but he wasn't really being rude and I was too polite to just tell him to go away. Then he told me he was from Egypt and that he wanted me to go there with him. He told me we had a great time, and I love it there. I love it so much. In fact, I want to live there. Alarms were going off in my head. Like, who are you? And why would I just take off halfway across the globe with you? I declined too politely, and he left the store. I was so relieved. Honestly, I was somewhat flattered, but very weirded out. I went about my shift, and maybe an hour or two later he returned. I was behind the counter ringing up customers, and I'm very grateful that I was. He stood behind the people I was ringing up, interrupting whatever small talk we were making during the transaction, and proceeded to beg me to come with him to Egypt. He had lost his smile and charm instead. He appeared desperate and impatient. The customers, a nice older couple, looked perplexed and annoyed that this guy had just barged into our little bubble and was being so hostile. I told him no again, and was not nice about it this time. He left the store in a huff. I never saw him again, but I wish I had reported him to mall security, or maybe even the police. I was naive at the time, but looking back, he was either a desperate weirdo or a human trafficker. Scary stuff, and I hope he didn't succeed with anyone else.